The universe was created for humans to explore and dominate. Therefore, so long as we keep breathing and living a prosperous life, we have every right to dominate every part of the universe, provided it can sustain life. And you know what? We humans have dominated and explored a lot about Earth, and now is the era to explore other planets in space, that is, the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, or other planets that scientific research can prove humans can survive on. The space program we were not given much attention to has proved its capabilities to the world, which concerns the Chinese space race. What piece of precious crystal did China find on the Moon, and how could this success pose a huge competitive threat to SpaceX? Let's get this question ironed out in today's video. China landed the Change 5 rover on the Moon, 43 degrees west of the lunar surface, closer to Mon Runker in Oceanus on December 1st, 2020. The Change 5 landing mission marks a historic first, the first to confirm that truly there is water on the Moon. However, water was first discovered by India's Chandrayaan-1 mission through NASA's Moon Mineralogy Mapper instrument. But that was only scientific data. China's Change 5 lander did the physical confirmation that of a truth, there is water on the lunar surface. Now, the same Change 5 lander has found something on the lunar surface that will contribute massively to energy growth all over the world, leaving Elon Musk and NASA behind the fence. There is a huge difference here. While SpaceX plans to land on the Moon and build a base before heading to Mars, China is busy researching their lunar territory, and within a short while, they discovered and extracted a power crystal that could be used to generate nuclear power. This discovery speaks volumes about how China may be set to take over a vast portion of the Moon. We'll come to this point later. Mission Chinese scientists have confirmed the discovery of a new mineral in the lunar regolith. It is a clear crystal that they have named Changi-site. China is the only third country, after the US and Russia, to find a new kind of rock on the Moon. Changi-site is the sixth unique mineral known on the Moon, but has not yet been found on Earth. This is a pretty big deal, not just because we have new space rock, but also because this is just one of the things that China has found in the new collection of moon soil that they got in 2020 when the Chang'e 5 robotic lander successfully returned to Earth. The same regolith that had the Changi-site also had helium-3, which the Chinese found. This isotope of helium is being looked at as a possible fuel source for nuclear fusion reactors. The Chinese claims that they know how much helium-3 is in moon dust and are the first to figure out how to get this isotope out of the returned samples. This discovery at the Changi-site came from a small collection of lunar regolith and rocks from the moon surface that the Chang'e 5 rover took in 2020 and sent back to Earth. The rover landed on the part of the Moon called Oceanus Propeller, which means the ocean of storms. The sample was taken near Mont Rumker, which used to be a volcano. The rocks and soil in that area are only 1.2 billion years old. Chang'e 5 used a combination of a mechanical scoop and a drill that could dig 2 meters underground. Samples sent back by NASA back in the 1970s, a mission found regolith that was much older, between 3.1 and 4.4 billion years old. None of the Apollo crew landings were anywhere near where the Chang'e 5 sample collection was done. China found a single piece of clear, colorless crystal in that sample that looked a bit like a diamond. The Chang'e site is only 10 microns wide, a tiny speck of phosphate mineral and columnar crystal. The International Mineralogical Association has confirmed that this is a new mineral, one of 6 found in samples from the Moon. Helium-3 can make 164.3 megawatt hours of energy per gram. It's hard to imagine how much that is, but the Hoover Dam makes 11,000 megawatt hours of energy every day. Now let's do the math. That means that just 67 grams of helium-3 would produce as much energy as a huge hydroelectric dam reactor in a day, which is pretty crazy. Also, neither the helium-3 nor the products of its reactions are radioactive, so they wouldn't turn the reactor parts into nuclear waste that we would have to deal with on Earth. From global scale, we would only need about 100 tons of helium-3, so China has a huge head start finding it. They also have the Chang'e 4 mission on the Moon's far side looking for helium-3 deposits. They say they already have a way to get the necessary isotopes from the lunar soil. Because it contains helium-3, which shows promise as a fuel for nuclear fusion, the material could be an energy source in the future. Samples from China's Change 5 mission showed that there was enough of the material to be taken from the Moon's surface. The helium-3 inside the Change Site Y is what makes it so special. Helium-3 is a key isotope that could be very useful in nuclear reactions. Most current fusion reactions use tritium and deuterium. Still, these create byproducts that are hard to contain. The energy loss during the reaction is so great that it often exceeds the amount of energy that can be taken out. One way to solve this problem is to use helium-3, an isotope that is the only stable element with more protons than neutrons. When you mix helium-3 and deuterium, you get helium and 1 proton. This is much easier to deal with than the other options. Unfortunately, there isn't much helium-3 on Earth, and if fusion were to become a useful way to get energy, the lack of it could make it hard to do. However, it is much more common on the surface of the moon, making it a good place to look for it to prepare for the energy of the future. Bloomberg says that China has gotten permission for 3 new probes to go to the moon. The goal is to set up a permanent presence on the moon. China is making a new effort to improve its space agency. They recently launched orbiters and probes to the moon, as soon they will try to go to Mars and compete with NASA. NASA and SpaceX are trying to get Artemis 1 launched and to the moon. This will send several CubeSat satellites and an Orion spacecraft into lunar orbit. The launch window has been moved to late September or early October because of problems with the engine and a leak, so NASA and SpaceX must keep working hard if they want to beat China's activities on the moon's surface. Now back to the original question, is China taking over the surface of the moon even though SpaceX and Blue Origin have plans for the planet? Bill Nelson, who is in charge of NASA, recently said that he was worried about China's goals in space. In particular, he was worried that China would try to claim ownership of the moon and stop other countries from exploring it. Nelson told a German newspaper, "We need to be very worried about China landing on the moon and saying, 'It's ours now, stay out.'" China called the claims a lie right away. This fight between the head of NASA and government officials from China is happening when both countries are working hard on missions to the moon. China hasn't been shy about wanting to go to the moon. China was the first country to land a spacecraft on the far side of the moon. This happened in 2019. China and Russia said in the same year that they want to reach the south pole of the moon by 2026. Some Chinese officials and government papers have said they want to build a permanent international lunar research station that will have people living there by 2027. There is a big difference between China or any other country building a base on the moon and taking over the moon. As two people studying space security and China's space program, we think it's unlikely that any country, including China, will take over the moon soon. It's not only against the law, but also hard to do technologically. The costs would be very high and the possible benefits would be hard to predict. China can't take over the moon legally because it's against the space travel rules. The Outer Space Treaty was made in 1967 and signed by 134 countries, including China. It says outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, is not subject to national appropriation by claim of sovereignty, by use or occupation, or by any other means. Legal experts disagree on what appropriation means, but if you take the treaty at face value, it says that no country can claim ownership of the moon and call it an extension of its national goals and rights. If China tried to do this, it would risk being criticized by the rest of the world and possibly facing retaliation from the rest. Do you think China is actually on the move to colonize moon? While they get everything ready, SpaceX has revealed a new launch date for Starship's first payload. Just click on the video to know more.